Hey everybody, my name's Naomi Stonia and I'm a marriage coach, but it may surprise you to find out that I work with you on an individual basis, teaching you the relationship skills that our parents didn't model for us that make marriage a hell of a lot easier and happier. And then you lead the way, integrating them into family life, leaving a legacy of new, healthier relationship habits for the next generation to come. And today I'm talking about communication and how difficult it can be to communicate. So there are two things that happen to us. One, we try to talk to our spouse and they either try to fix it or by asking lots of questions and saying, but I don't understand. And what, who said this, that happened, this happened? No, I don't get it. Why don't you do this instead? Give you loads of advice that you don't want, really irritating. Or they ignore you and shut you down. Stop making a fuss. Oh, it's not that bad. Or they just don't even pay attention. The other issue we have in relationships is you can't talk about stuff. When you try to talk to your spouse, they either shut down and won't talk, or you're getting into an argument. Okay. Now, if you are in the habit of not going to your partner with your issues because of this, because they just don't get it and they just make it worse, you may feel like you've got a really good reason to see going outside your marriage to talk to your friends or talk to your wider family. But you have to understand the consequences of this. And the consequences of this, when we don't turn to each other for help, support, and advice, is that inadvertently, unintentionally, or maybe intentionally, sometimes we're sending a message on purpose, but often it's unintentionally communicated. I don't trust you with my problems. Okay, now you may well not mean to do that. You may well think that your partner doesn't know you're going to other people, but everything is communicated in the subtlest ways. And inadvertently, what we're telling each other is, I don't trust you and I don't rate you. And I don't want you to be involved in my problems. So this is really, really normal. But you have to understand the consequences of this. This is like death by 1,000 cuts. It's really not good for your relationship to not to be able to feel like you can turn to your partner, not feel like you can go to them for help and advice. So it is really, really worth it doing the work to find a way to communicate with each other. And this can feel like an impossible task. I absolutely get it. I have been there, trust me. But it's worth the effort. And it's simpler and more available than you think to do this, because the reason it feels so difficult for you is because we have these rules and these beliefs around this stuff that we don't realize we have. So you're a sponge soaking this in. You learn your communication style somewhere well before your partner turned up. Okay, you both have different communication styles. They don't match, they clash, and then we just get stuck. And it's just understanding and letting go of no one communication style is right or wrong. They're just different. And there are very simple things you can do to overcome your communication styles. If first normalize that you have different communication styles. This is not a personality fault. Okay, this is just we learn different ways of being, and you have to neutralize and normalize it. Okay, so when you normalize it, you can start to flex your communication style. And I'll give you some examples of this. So in my marriage, my communication style, as with many women, is let's talk about this in triplicate. Let's have a big, long, deep discussion about it. And so we've got to sit down face to face and talk for at least an hour. Now, I had a partner who just that shut them down big time. And so the response I would get was either, what is it? I could see my partner reading my face. What is it that I need to say? What is it she wants to hear that will get me out of this situation as quickly as possible? Not what do I think, because if I tell her what I really think, I'm going to be here for another hour. I got to, what does she need to hear so I can just get out of this? Okay. Or, just shutting down and refusing to talk and avoiding. Okay. So for me, what I learned to do, I led the way in flexing my communication style. Okay. And that meant letting go of my communication rules. Okay. So I have learned to have serious conversations over messages, over phone messages. Back in the day, the rule was, what? We cannot have a serious conversation over messages. This is ridiculous. We need to sit down and talk about this. But I learned that if I was willing to have a conversation over messages, over phone messages, I would get a lot more out of my partner. So I just learned to let go of that rule. The other thing you need to do, if you want to learn to to be able to turn to your partner with your problems and get support and advice, is not make their communication style a problem. Okay. And guide them and tell them how you want to communicate. Don't make it a problem that they don't know. Okay. And when you neutralize this, you don't make it personal. You don't make it a personality fault that they're no good at talking with you about your problems. Don't make it a personality fault, but just normalize we all talk in different ways. And men and women do talk in very different ways. So when you guide your partner in how you need them to talk to you, and you don't make it a problem that they need to be told. So this looks like, I don't need you to fix it. Asking me questions does not help. It gets me into overwhelm. I need you to do this. It may be, I need you to give me a hug. That's it. And you will need to tell them and not make it a problem. And tell them, explain, you don't get it, and that is okay. All right. So you feel very upset about something, you feel very overwhelmed about something, and they will be like, why are you upset? What's the problem? I don't get it. Right. That is the most infuriating experience in the world. But don't make it a personality fault. Say to them, yeah, I know it makes no sense to you. It doesn't have to make sense to you. This is just how I'm feeling. And I need you to, and it would be, this is what I need from you. Yeah. So when we normalize the fact that it is really, communication is really difficult in marriage, we often do not understand each other. We often find that very frustrating. It's not a personality fault. It's normal to just communicate in very different ways. You can make this less personal, which will drop the emotion, and you can get creative and inventive about how you communicate. Okay. And I don't need to have important conversations over WhatsApp anymore. I don't need to have important conversations over messages, because we did that for long enough that it became safe for us to have the conversation in person. But I have learned I've got to keep it short. I'm going to have much more success if I keep it short. So, I have to trim it by about a third. And I have to say, this is the last thing I'm going to say now, but I do need you to hear this. Yeah. And sometimes, I'll have the conversation as segments. Okay. And I've stopped making that mean that my partner doesn't care about me. I've just understood they communicate in a different way to me. Yeah. And this is how you restore trust and safety to have open conversations, when you stop making each other wrong for the way you communicate. So, when I would get really upset and get very emotional and wild about it, my partner would say, for God's sake, and would shut down and just, oh, you're making a fuss again. But my partner has learned to get better at handling when I'm feeling lively and overwhelmed, and I express it in that way. My partner's learned to be more patient with me. So, we've moved towards each other's communication style. We're now more in the center ground, okay, because we were able to neutralize and normalize it. There's nothing wrong with you as a couple. This is not a personality fault. It's not that they don't care. But, going to a friend, going to a family member, it's the easy route. In the moment, it's the quickest, easiest thing to do. But long term, it has consequences for your relationship. Because long term, in small ways, you're saying, I don't, trust you. You don't mean to say this, but, I don't trust you and I don't rate you. And it undermines in small ways your relationship when you go to other people with your problems. Yeah, it is not good for the dynamic of your relationship. So this can feel really challenging to do, but it's really worth it. So give it a go. And if you want some help giving it a go, I offer a free 1-hour consult call. I will spend 1 hour with you applying this specific strategy and many others to your specific set of circumstances. What we will do on that call is we'll take a look at where you are now in your relationship, where you want to be, and how working with me like this will bridge the gap between the two. So just that call alone is really valuable. If you would like to spend an hour with me talking about this work, send me a message right now. Okay, thank you.